On April 21, 2017, a local resident discovered something strange in a wooded area outside the city of Elkhorn. He stopped at a pile of branches and moss, under which, as it seemed to him, there were abandoned items. In fact, as forensic experts later established, it was a burial site. The body of a woman was under a layer of soil, partially covered with bushes and organic remains. This was not an accidental death. This was not a suicide. Everything pointed to a violent death. The woman was in casual clothes, jeans, a light jacket, undamaged shoes. Next to the body were personal belongings, including a bag, documents, and a strange object, a receipt from a nearby restaurant. Given the weather conditions and the environment, experts assumed that death occurred approximately 5 to 6 days before the body was discovered. A visual examination showed that the cause of death was a gunshot. The blow was pinpoint, instantaneous. There were no signs of a struggle. Dear viewers, in the next video releases, you will find very intriguing and confusing cases. And in order not to miss them, be sure to subscribe to the channel and please like the video. Anna Repkina was born in Russia in 1990, at a time when the country was undergoing a major transformation. Perestroika had already ended, but its echoes continued to influence the lives of ordinary people. She grew up in a city with a long history, where the past coexisted with the present, streets paved with stone, old facades peeling with time, and at the same time, shop windows with Western goods, the first foreign cars, and a new, rapidly changing reality. In this atmosphere, a girl with a huge inner world and delicate sensitivity was formed. From an early age, Anna showed extraordinary attention to detail and a soft, friendly character. Teachers at school often noted her as a quiet but thoughtful student who had a look older than her years. She did not strive to be a leader, did not strive for publicity, but was always there at the right moment. It is these children who are usually called reliable. This quality will remain with her throughout her life and will largely determine her adult path. Anna's family was typical for the Russian provinces. Her mother worked in the social sphere. Her father was an engineer. The parents separated when Anna was about 10 years old, but maintained a respectful relationship. The girl stayed with her mother, and it was she who became her main authority. The mother raised her daughter in an atmosphere of care, but without excessive guardianship, trying to instill independence in her. They spent evenings reading books, watching classic Soviet films, or talking about the future. It was important for Anna to achieve something in life on her own, without help, without patronage. So she chose the path of rational, stable growing up. After school, Anna entered the university, choosing the field of economics and accounting. She did not strive for a career in the capital, preferring to stay closer to home. She was interested in the financial sector, not for the sake of wealth, but for the sake of order. She sincerely believed that finance is not about money, but about honesty, discipline, and structure. Already in her 3rd year, she began to earn extra money, first as an assistant accountant, then as a full-time employee. Her managers noted her amazing precision, punctuality, and high level of responsibility. Anna did not just do the job, she delved into the essence of the processes, looked for patterns, and suggested improvements. By the time she graduated from the university, she already had real experience behind her, which allowed her to quickly get a stable position in a private company. But behind the professional strictness, there was a rich inner world. Anna loved the music of the 80s, especially ballads. Scorpions, Roxette, and sometimes even Beethoven were playing in her headphones. She adored cinema, both Hollywood classics and Russian melodramas. Her favorite film was Office Romance, and among foreign ones, Forrest Gump. Anna believed in the sincerity of feelings, in the fact that true love is possible. But her personal life was not as simple as she would have liked. Her first serious romance lasted almost 7 years. It was a relationship with a man who seemed reliable, but turned out to be unprepared for the future. The breakup was painful, but quiet. No scandals, no drama, just 2 people who were going in different directions. After that, she did not enter into new relationships for a long time, focusing on work, family, and her own recovery. Anna had few friends, but each of them noted her as a sincere and real person. She didn't like gossip, couldn't stand falsehood, and if she was friends, she would be friends until the end. Her childhood friend recalled, "You could be silent with Anya, and it was easier than talking to anyone else. She knew how to listen without interrupting, and she always found the right words when everything inside was collapsing." At 26, Anna already had more behind her than many of her peers: her own home, a stable job, internal discipline, and deep, unostentatious kindness. But what she lacked was a sense of the fullness of life. In her notes, found later, there were lines. "It seems to me that I am walking in a straight line, but more and more often I want to turn around, to where everything is not according to plan." These were not confessions of depression. It was a call for something new, different, more alive than daily reports and alienated meetings. It was this impulse, the search for something alive, real, that led her to a dating site. At first, she simply corresponded with colleagues in the industry, with other economists, with people from neighboring cities. Then she expanded her geography, began communicating with those who lived outside the country. Not with the expectation of leaving. She did not need salvation, but out of a desire to understand what else exists in the world besides routine. She dreamed not of another country, but of a different level of relationships. Pure, mature, partnership-like. There was a fragment in her diary. "I want someone to look at me not as someone's daughter, employee, or colleague, but as a whole person, with my own story." When a person from another continent, from distant Oregon, appeared in her life, it was not a sudden impulse. It was the result of many months of dialogue, internal and external. She studied the language, was interested in U.S. culture, read articles on migration and marriages with foreigners. Her approach was conscious. She did not rush into the pool. She studied the rules of navigation. And yet, her heart remained open. Colleagues noted that she had changed recently. She began to smile more often, wore clothes with light accents that she had not allowed herself before. One day at work, they noticed a postcard on her desk with the inscription, "To the moon and back." She did not explain who sent it. She simply said, "Sometimes something happens in life that is worth taking a risk for." This was not an illusion, not a girl's dream. It was the decision of an adult woman ready for change. Before the trip, Anna completed all the paperwork, took a vacation, left a schedule of tasks at her workplace, and promised her colleagues that she would tell everything as soon as she returns. Mom was worried, but trusted her daughter. She knew that she was not prone to reckless behavior. Her departure was not an escape. It was a step towards something new. With a suitcase in one hand and a soft toy in the other, Anna left for the airport. There was no fear in her eyes, only bright anxiety and hope. As she said goodbye to her friend, "If I don't try, I won't know, and I don't want to live in waiting mode anymore." When Anna Repkina landed at Portland International Airport in the spring of 2017, Oregon, USA, nothing foreshadowed trouble. This was not her first visit. She had previously come to the United States for a short time to meet in person someone with whom she had been corresponding for a long time. The trip left a positive impression on her. The American outback, green spaces, silence, and a person with whom, as it seemed to her, they could have a common future. After returning to Russia, she had no doubt. This choice was hers. She was determined to start a new life, move permanently, and build a strong relationship. The environment was calm. Anna talked to friends, sent her mother photos and videos, described the nature, local customs, shared plans. According to her, she and her lover were planning to officially get engaged, apply for marriage, decide where to live. Everything looked encouraging. But beneath this smooth exterior, a hidden tension was brewing. Invisible to her, but palpable to those who would later read the correspondence, reconstruct events, and analyze other people's decisions. Anna stayed in touch until the very last moment. Throughout April 2017, she corresponded with friends, discussed paperwork, and on April 15th, according to information from law enforcement, she was spotted in a fast food restaurant in a small town near Corvallis. This was one of the last times anyone outside her immediate circle saw her. After that, silence. Anna stopped communicating. She did not respond to messages or calls. At first, this was explained by being busy or moving issues. But with each passing day, the anxiety grew. Her mother in Russia tried to contact her daughter directly, then through mutual friends, and finally contacted the consulate. An investigation began. On April 21, 2017, a local resident discovered something strange in a wooded area outside the city of Elkhorn, a secluded place rarely visited by people. He stopped at a pile of branches and moss, under which, as it seemed to him, there were abandoned things. In fact, as forensic experts later established, this was a burial site. The body of a woman was under a layer of soil, partially covered by bushes and organic remains. This was not an accidental death. This was not a suicide. Everything pointed to a violent death. The Benton County Sheriff's Department arrived at the scene, and then forensic experts. What they saw confused them. The woman was in casual clothes, jeans, a light jacket, undamaged shoes. Next to the body were personal belongings, including a bag, documents, and a strange object, a receipt from a nearby fast food restaurant, dated April 15th. This was the first clue that later became the key to the chain of evidence. Given the weather conditions and the environment, experts assumed that death occurred approximately 5 to 6 days before the body was discovered. A visual inspection showed that the cause of death was a gunshot. The blow was pinpoint, instantaneous. No signs of a struggle were recorded. This was not an outburst of aggression or a chaotic crime, rather, the execution of someone's cold decision. The scene itself looked neat. The body was not thrown away. They tried to hide it. This gave away not just a criminal, but a person who was afraid of exposure, but acted with a certain calculation. The identity of the deceased was established quite quickly, thanks to the documents found in the bag. Russian passport, visa, bank card, name, Anna Repkina, citizen of the Russian Federation, 26 years old. Contact information left upon entry allowed us to find out the circle of people with whom she communicated after arrival. The initial shock was accompanied by a huge number of questions. Who could have done this? Why? And why? The girl who had flown in to build her personal life was shot to death in a deserted place, just a few days after her last public appearance. The police immediately began to develop versions. The first line was her social circle, who had met Anna in the US, where she lived, who she had been in contact with. They checked calls, messages, and mobile operator data. But the most important thing was the route of the last day. It was the receipt from the restaurant that became the first clue. It was made to order, made for two, a burger, coffee, French fries, dessert. The time was early evening. Video from surveillance cameras showed a woman similar to Anna entering with a man. He did not look tense, laughing, and gesturing to push her forward. They looked like a couple, not suspected of anything. When the police began to reconstruct the chronology, other details emerged. Cameras in stores, bank transactions, activity on social networks. Everything indicated that death occurred shortly after this visit to the cafe. And whoever was with Anna in her final hours likely knew, or even planned, what was about to happen. One detail was particularly disturbing. The day after the presumed time of death, purchases were made with Anna's bank card. Someone had used her funds. The transactions included car insurance, a toy store, and several small payments at grocery stores. It didn't look like an attempt to make money, but rather something stranger. Perhaps an attempt to act as if nothing had happened. Investigators also paid attention to the behavior of the man Anna was seen with. They got his name from immigration records and the girl's phone contacts. He had no criminal record, was not under surveillance, and initially did not arouse suspicion. But during the first interrogation, his behavior seemed unnatural to the police. He stuttered, gave confusing statements, and most importantly, got the dates mixed up. He claimed to have seen Anna the day before she disappeared, but could not remember where they went or why. When asked to provide his phone number, he refused, and soon he tried to delete some of the data. At the same time, the police established that a few days before the alleged date of the murder, the same man rented a firearm from an acquaintance, explaining that he wanted to shoot in nature. He returned it a day later. The results of the ballistic examination confirmed that it was from this weapon that the fatal shot was fired. More and more evidence appeared that linked the man to the crime scene. Geolocation data showed that on the night of Anna's alleged death, his phone was in the same area where her body was later found. Traces of soil similar to the burial site were later found in the trunk of his car. Everything came together to form a single, disturbing picture. But even with the evidence, the motive remained unclear. What could have made a man in a relationship with Anna decide to take such a step? There were no official quarrels or conflicts recorded. Anna did not write complaints, did not share her fears, and only later, during a full investigation, when experts in psychological profiles were included in the case, it became clear there was not only love in this story, but also a third party, another plot. But all this is in the next stage of the story, and at this stage, the crime scene remains a silent witness. A bunch of bushes, a scorched spot on the map, tire tracks, a receipt from a restaurant, and the body of a young woman who flew in for love and found death on foreign soil. From the moment Anna Repkina's body was officially identified and the cause of death confirmed as a gunshot wound, the investigation began to accelerate. The murder of a foreign citizen on U.S. soil caused a wide public outcry, especially considering that the victim was a young woman just starting a new life. The Benton County Sheriff was extremely brief at the first briefing. "We are dealing with a carefully planned crime, and we will find those who are behind it." Behind this statement was not only a professional promise, but also confidence. There were clues, and they led to a specific person. It was from this moment that the complex, multi-layered work began. All that the detectives had at the very beginning was a body, documents, a receipt from a restaurant, and a name, Will Hargrove. Anna was in contact with him. He met her in the U.S., and he was the last person to communicate with her. The investigators understood that if the crime was committed in a personal relationship, then solving it was a matter of time. The key is to not miss the details. The first step was to obtain a search warrant for the home where Will lived. It was a rental home owned by a woman named Michelle Chavez. As it turned out, they had a long-term relationship. Informal, but strong. And it was she, not Anna, who had lived under the same roof with Will until recently. At the same time, according to the Immigration Service, he was formally engaged to Anna. An alarming triangle began to emerge, and with it, a possible motive. During the interrogation, Hargrove was tense, but not aggressive. He claimed that Anna had left on business, and he had not seen her since. According to investigators, his behavior was too smooth, as if prepared. There were few contradictions in his words, but they were enough to initiate further requests. Phone records, bank transactions, surveillance cameras, correspondence. An analysis of his phone revealed that the day before he was supposed to have died, he had contacted a friend named Kevin Thomas, who had given him a gun, saying he wanted to go target shooting. Kevin seemed trustworthy to the police, but a detail emerged in his testimony that changed the course of the investigation. He said, when he returned the gun, he was strange. Didn't look at anyone. Said he'd overdone it and needed to erase it forever. This alerted investigators, especially considering that this particular gun, after ballistics testing, matched the bullet found in Anna's body. Everything pointed to Hargrove, but the motive remained unclear. Why would a man who was preparing for marriage kill the woman he called his fiancée? The answer began to become clear when investigators questioned Michelle Chavez. The woman was desperate. She did not hide the fact that she loved Will, and that their relationship lasted for several years, despite her official marriage to another man. According to her, everything changed when Anna entered Hargrove's life. He began to distance himself, began to come home less often, and later openly announced that he was going to get married. Michelle was furious. She did not accept the thought of another woman in the life of the man she considered hers. In one of the messages that were recovered from her phone, she wrote, "Fix it, make it permanent, or I will." A phrase that would later be recognized as the main indirect impetus for the tragedy. When detectives presented these messages to Hargrove, He began to confuse his testimony. At first, he denied receiving such words. Then he said that he simply did not take them seriously. And then, he fell silent. A long, tense silence that required no explanation. He realized that his plan was beginning to unravel. Next, they followed the money trail. Cameras captured Hargrove withdrawing about $800 from Anna's bank account after the presumed murder date. He spent the money on astonishing purchases: car insurance, candy, Legos. Investigators tried to figure out whether this was an act of disguise, a psychological breakdown, or something even stranger. One of the officers later said in an interview, "He acted like he wanted to turn back time. Like if he took her away, he would get his old life back." And sure enough, dozens of search queries on his computer related to time travel, time machines, alternate reality, soul swapping, and returning to Point X were found. He even posted messages to private chat rooms and online groups asking, "If you could go back 72 hours, what would you pay?" Psychologists involved in the case labeled this behavior as dissociative flight. Not only could Hargrove not accept what he had done, he sought to convince himself that it could be fixed. And the more evidence the investigation had, the deeper he sank into this pseudo-mystical world. The next key piece of evidence was the footprints on the car. Experts took soil samples from the trunk of Hargrove's car and compared them with samples from the crime scene. The match was complete. Moreover, plastic film was found in his garage, which, according to forensic experts, had previously been wrapped around some of Anna's clothes. Forensic experts concluded that she had been transported in this car on the night she was presumably killed. Her phone had gone dead in the same area. When all this puzzle came together, the prosecutor's office formally filed charges. Hargrove was arrested. The charge included first-degree murder. The defense tried to build a line of psychological instability, pressure from third parties, and even the assumption that he did not understand what he was doing. But the investigation had facts. There was a motive, there were messages, there was a murder weapon, and there was a path, from the cafe to the crime scene, marked by both time and actions. Meanwhile, Anna Repkina's relatives in Russia were in shock. Their daughter, in their words, would never have taken a single abrupt step. She did not enter into conflicts, did not take risks, was extremely careful. For them, everything that was happening seemed like a theater of the absurd, as if it was not her script, but it was her name in the headlines, it was her story, on the pages of crime reports. The investigation was completed several months later. The accusation was built extremely clearly. Every detail, every step, every digital clue were connected into a line that led to one person. Anna came for a new life, and she found death. And now the investigation had to go through the final stage, to prove guilt in court, where reality collides with the jury, where fate is decided by a vote. October 2019. Oregon. The Benton County Circuit Courthouse fills up long before the trial begins. In the dock is William "Will" Hargrove, 29. The charge, first-degree murder. The injured party is the family of Anna Repkina, a Russian woman who came to the United States believing in love and a new future. Now her name is in the headlines, and her photos are in evidence. This was not just a trial for a crime. It was a trial that examined not only guilt, but also human limits. How far can obsession go? How far will a person go, torn between fear, weakness, and jealousy? The judge opens the trial. The 12 jurors are residents of the county, random participants in someone else's tragedy, who are now obliged to delve into every detail. The prosecutor, Joel Petty, opens with the words, "She was honest, she was kind, she wanted love, and she got shot. This is not an accident. This is not a tragedy. This is murder." The prosecution builds its strategy based on the facts. First, the technical details. Correspondence between Will and Anna, in which they plan their life together. Letters from Michelle Chavez, in which she demands that Anna be forever taken away. Money transfers, withdrawals from Anna's card after her death. Video from the cafe where they were last together. Ballistics confirming that the fatal shot was fired from a gun, borrowed by Hargrove. Geolocation of the phone, tying it to a wooded area at the time of the disappearance. Traces of soil in the trunk of the car, matching the crime scene. Each of these links by itself could have been an accident. Together, it was a chain. Reliable, documented, chronologically verified. And in this chain, each link was against the accused. But, as often happens, it's not the evidence that makes the biggest impression, but the people. Michelle Chavez is the first to testify. The woman around whom the psychological underpinnings of the entire case are built. She holds herself calmly, her voice tired but firm. She admits that she did put pressure on Will, that she wanted him back, that she sent him angry messages. But she categorically denies that she asked for anything more terrible. I wanted him to break up with her, that's all. I didn't think he was capable of murder, she says. The defense is focusing on this. Pressure. According to their version, Will was caught between two women. One is persistent, jealous, ready to ruin his life. The other is kind, trusting, but too quick to feel. And Will himself is an unstable person. Mentally vulnerable. Prone to panic reactions. They bring excerpts from his medical history. Episodes of depression, discussions with a psychologist, requests for anxiety. Defense attorney David Miller says, he's not a cold-blooded killer. He's a man broken by circumstances. His actions are not the result of hatred, but desperation. But the prosecution counters. They present CCTV footage taken a day after Anna went missing. It shows Will Hargrove alone in a store, buying sweets and Lego toys, calmly, without signs of shock. His face is neutral. This is not a man who has just lost control. This is a man hiding a crime. Then the prosecutor reminds, that same night, he searched the internet for how to go back in time. Correspondence in which he offered his soul in exchange for correcting a mistake, trying to destroy digital traces. And these are not the actions of a repentant person. These are the actions of a frightened killer, he concludes. Anna's friends speak, her mother via video link. Her voice trembles. She is unable to say much, but she says the main thing. I gave her not to death, but to love. And he killed not only her, he killed everything that was alive in me. The courtroom falls silent. A few seconds of absolute silence. The defense does not give up. They invite experts, discuss the defendant's condition, raise the issue of temporary loss of consciousness. But the court is not a place for hypotheses, and the jury is not researchers. They are presented with facts. The final blow is the technical report. It describes, by the second, when Will took the gun, when they were in the cafe, when Anna's mobile signaled for the last time, when her card was used to pay for insurance, when a search for time travel was made, and all on one device, all by one person. The trial lasts for several weeks, emotions run high, but control is maintained. No one crosses the line. This is not a drama. This is reality, the consequences of which are already irreversible. At the final hearing, the judge reminds the jury, you are not here for revenge. You are here to determine the truth. After 6 hours of deliberation, the jury returns. The verdict, guilty, first-degree murder. A pause. Will Hargrove sits motionless. No tears, no anger. As if everything that is happening is a movie, and he is watching it from the sidelines. But the judge brings him back to reality. You are sentenced to life imprisonment. The possibility of parole is not earlier than in 25 years. There is relief in the courtroom, but not joy. Because justice is not a victory. It is a loss that everyone will now live with. Anna Repkina came to America in search of love. She was an accountant, a daughter, a friend, a quiet person with dreams. And she became a victim of someone else's indecision, lies, and fear.